Support provided by the Chesapeake and Newport News with chef-centric farm-to-table dining. thechesapeake.org.
Hi friends, Jay Sennett. Welcome to another edition of Cooking with Jay here in the Jazz Kitchen. Hope all of you are doing well. Today I'm back into the sweets mold. I'm going to make you my version of a delicious chocolate chip banana bread. Oh, chocolate chip. And so let me put this together. First of all, I have the oven preheating on 350 degrees, okay? Oftentimes, sometimes when you make the bread, you get the bread out and it's cracking at the top. One of the reasons could be that you're cooking it too quickly. So if your oven is not calibrated, it might be cooking a little bit too hot. So you can always cook it a little less, like, instead of 350, maybe 330 or something like that, and just maybe a little bit longer. But the outside won't cook as quickly. Or you have some sort of, miscalculation on your baking soda versus baking powder or that sort of thing. All right, so let me show you how I get into making this. I have 2 eggs in here, all right? I have a stick of butter, all right? We have some butter, a stick of butter, and I'm using salted butter, by the way. You can use unsalted butter, but I think the thing, to me it doesn't make a difference, but I use salted butter, but you don't have to use. You can use unsalted butter, but there is salt actually in the recipe, just a pinch, okay? So I'm using about a tablespoon and a half of vanilla flavoring, or vanilla extract, not vanilla flavoring. All right. Okay, and let's see. I use brown sugar and white cane sugar. More brown sugar, probably put a half a cup of light brown sugar in here, okay, and about a quarter cup of white cane sugar. All right, so that's what I use there. So we have the eggs, butter, vanilla extract, and the sugar in here. Now I want to mix this. Using my hand mixer, of course. You want to blend this well. Sometimes the brown sugar will chunk up a little bit. It's nice and creamy, good texture. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, stop that. Now, what I'm noticing is that one of these, where is it? Okay, a couple of pieces of the brown sugar were chunking up and didn't fall apart. Okay, now in here, I have a cup and a half of flour. I have a teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, teaspoon of baking powder, and about a quarter teaspoon of salt or less. Okay, so, and I sifted these 3 ingredients together: the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. Okay, so I'm going to gradually add the flour mixture into this wet batter. La, 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 la. All right, just put it all in there. I'll do that to get the flour off the sides. Of course, I can use a spatula to do that. Okay, now you notice I didn't add the bananas, but I will now. Put these bananas in there. Obviously, these are overripe bananas. I used 3 of them, but you can put the bananas in before this process, with the wet mixture and before you put the flour in. And I usually do that. I'm not sure why I changed my procedure for that. Probably because I forgot. To be honest, I forgot to put the bananas in. I'm going to put all the wet ingredients in. Okay, so let's get these. It's a little harder this way, but they're coming together. Yeah, okay. All right, now, all right, we got the bananas in there now. A little late, but but they're in there. Wash up my hands. Now I want to add about a half a cup of some 100% cocoa. If you're using the Ghirardelli, I'm using about, not quite a half a cup of cocoa powder, and I'm putting about a lot of these, so maybe about a cup of chocolate chips. Okay, so we have cocoa powder, about a half a cup of this cocoa powder, and about a cup of the chocolate chips. Mix that around. Oh yeah. Woo. Yes indeed. Okay. Got that there. Now, I'm going to get a spatula very quickly. La, 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 la. Now, these very cool baking pans, you know, I'm not sure what the material is. It's not rubber, but you don't have to put butter in there. You can, and actually I think I will, because it helps with that outside crispiness. I have some of that butter over here, inside this this baking pan here. Okay, and it's the traditional size baking pan. But the very cool thing about these, when it's done, it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick. Your bread doesn't stick to the sides there. Okay? All right, so let's get this. Look at this, first of all. Luscious chocolateness. It's just calling your name. All right. All these chocolate chips, that cocoa powder. I'll get this in here. Hold everything. All right. One more little. Okay. All right. Now, got this chocolate batter in here. So, that to get some of the air pockets out of it, balance it out. And sometimes you can see the batter pop up because those air pockets coming up out of there. It'll bake more evenly. And again, yeah. And you can even let it sit, the batter sit for, a few minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Before you actually put it in the oven, but we're not going to do that here for the sake of time, but it should be okay. All right, so I'm going to put this in the oven, all right? Woo! 350. Put that right in there. And I'm going to set it for 60 minutes. Because I'm cooking, I have it set for 350. Actually, it's a little bit less than 350. It's about 340. Okay, but I have that set for 60 minutes, cook for an hour, and you know the deal with the toothpick. Once you get it out, stick the toothpick inside and see if it comes out clean or not. So I made this again. Let's see. My chocolate chip banana bread. Okay, I use a cup and a half of flour, 2 eggs, teaspoon of baking powder, pinch of salt, quarter teaspoon or less of salt. I said 2 eggs, about a teaspoon and a half of vanilla flavoring. I used about a half a cup of light brown sugar and about a quarter cup of white cane sugar. I used 3 overripe bananas, and I used 100% Dutch cocoa powder, okay? And I used about a cup of these delicious milk chocolate chocolate chips, okay? So the cocoa powder actually is more, it almost has a dark chocolate vibe to it. So the combination of these milk chocolate chips with that dark cocoa, Dutch chocolate, dark cocoa powder, it's a nice, beautiful mixture, right? And I didn't use more than a third of a cup of sugar between the brown sugar and the white cane sugar. And I think I got all the ingredients in there. So, you put the dry ingredients together, the flour, the baking powder, and the salt, sifted together. Then you beat the eggs with the butter, use a stick of butter, the vanilla extract, and the sugar. And then you put the bananas in. I'm time conscious. That's what happens with the show, right? You put the bananas in, usually with the wet ingredients, okay? I didn't do it, I did it backwards, but it's okay, it'll still work. And the bananas mix well, nice and creamy. Then you gradually add the dry ingredients. Then you add the cocoa powder and the chocolate chips. Woo! Mix it together, get it in your baking pan, have your oven preheated at 350 degrees, and bake for about 60 minutes. And then we'll see what we have. So we're going to do one of these editing breaks where I actually disappear for an hour, but it's going to seem like a second when you see me again, when we're going to take our banana chocolate chip bread out of the oven and see what we have. Okay? So while this is baking, sit tight for a second or two, which will actually be almost an hour for me, and then we'll come back and take it out of there. Okay, stay with us. We'll be right back in a split second. Alrighty. Okay, see, just a split second and I'm back, but actually a little over an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes has gone by, and so take it out of the oven. It was cracking a little bit, but that's okay. Oh man, look at this. All right, this is, turn it off, the banana chocolate chip bread. You can see these delicious chocolate chips in there. It's beautiful texture. I checked it with the toothpick. It's done. Now you have to be careful with this because since you have chocolate inside there, that toothpick, chances are, is not going to come out clean. Okay, it's going to be some of that chocolate on there. So differentiate between the batter not being cooked and you're dipping in some chocolate in there. Hold on 1 second. Oh, look. See that? Woo! That's the beginning of some spicy sausage meatballs and some rigatoni. Oh. All right, but this is what's on the menu today. And by the way, this pan, it's silicone. That's what this is. This pan. And the bread will come right out of there. I'm going to let it cool in here just for a little while. And then it'll just fall right out onto a plate, So that's the dish today on this edition of Cooking with Jay. My delicious chocolate banana chocolate chip bread. There we go. And if you just tuned in late, just scroll back to the beginning. Let's check out the ingredients and how I made it. It's pretty easy, but it's delicious, okay? Cooking with Jay, Sunday evenings, starting at 6 p.m. on the WHO Public Media Facebook page. That's probably where you're watching it, so I don't have to tell you that. Thank you to the Chesapeake for the underwriting support. If you're part of a business and you think you'd like to underwrite some Cooking with Jay programs, contact Diane Rojic at WHRO, and she will tell you what you should do and how you can go about becoming an underwriter for the show. Okay? Don't forget my Send in a Session Jazz Show, WHR VFM, the R&B Chronicles, also on WHR VFM. Until the next edition of Cooking with Jay, Be safe, friends. Gonna let this bread, chocolate banana chip, chocolate chip bread cool, and I'm gonna get back to cooking my meatballs to prepare my hot sausage meatballs with rigatoni. All right, we'll see you soon for another edition of Cooking with Jay. Take care.
Support provided by the Chesapeake in Newport News, catering to the palate of every single resident. More at thechesapeake.org.